The narrator felt the air tighten as Alex Carter stared at the glowing phone. Alex said, "He promised me safety." Her voice a trembling wire. Daniel Ross smiled with careful calm, a mask hiding cold intent. Maya Chen whispered, "Say something before you drown." The after-hours office buzzed with flickering neon, and rain streaked the tall windows like claw marks. Alex said, "I gave him everything, and he traded me like a spare part." Daniel said, "You misunderstood the terms," each word sharpened by quiet cruelty. An email thread spilled secrets like shards of glass. The narrator sensed trust splintering into raw steel. Alex said, "I am done being careful," as resolve hardened behind her eyes. The narrator traced the first cracks to a kindness that now felt rehearsed. Alex said, "He brought soup when I was sick," and the memory curdled. Daniel said, "I like dependable people." A compliment that sounded like ownership. Maya murmured, "You worked late for months," as the office clock chimed like a warning. The company called it hustle, while the ledger called it fuel. Alex said, "I believed effort earned faith," and the thought trembled. Each favor became a quiet debt. Daniel said, "You can trust me," the phrase a net disguised as comfort. Alex said, "I missed birthdays and rest," and the cost finally surfaced. Promises aged badly in the silent room. The narrator unfolded a ledger of trust with missing pages. Alex said, "The first favor was small, and simplicity wore a mask." Daniel said, "Cover this client off hours," voice smooth as honey. Emails multiplied until calendars became traps. Maya said, "He keeps moving the goalposts," and the phrase clicked like a lock. Alex said, "I thought progress meant safety, but safety stayed away." Praise arrived only when witnesses lingered. Daniel said, "Teamwork is everything," while pocketing credit like coins. Alex said, "I signed beside his name," and the ink weighed heavy. The pattern tightened its grip. The narrator highlighted the hinge where kindness became control. Alex said, "He asked for my password in a rush, urgency blurring judgment." Daniel said, "Only for tonight," and temporary turned permanent. Maya said, "Change it tomorrow," but tomorrow kept slipping. The inbox became a vault with one master key. Alex said, "He forwarded my deck to himself," and the slide titles felt stolen. Daniel said, "We are one team," the word "we" swallowing her name. Each small surrender marked another tally on an invisible wall. Alex said, "I told myself it was efficient," while efficiency hid a quiet hunger. The narrator delivered the blow that triggered the avalanche. Alex said, "I heard my own words in his presentation, the echo wounding her." Daniel said, "Leadership needs clarity," clicking to her slide with his name atop. A thin laugh from the back row sliced the air. Maya whispered, "That's your analysis," but truth had no microphone. Alex said, "Prove I made it." Yet the files bore his watermark. The projector hummed while credit rewrote itself in real time. Daniel said, "We all contribute," and the phrase dissolved ownership. Alex said, "This is the first betrayal I can name," as the audience applauded the thief. The narrator set the anchor by tracing the quiet ways. Alex Carter kept others afloat. Alex said, "If I stop moving, the silence will swallow me." Maya Chen said, "You do not owe the storm your bones." The kitchen hummed with the small mercy of tea and rain. Alex said, "Work was supposed to mean refuge," as her eyes tracked the steam. Daniel Ross lived in the gaps where gratitude becomes leverage. The narrator noted how Alex translated pain into help for everyone else. Maya said, "You believe people become better when trusted," and the truth stung. Alex said, "I would rather risk hurt than become hard," but the surface trembled. The room felt like a raft built from late nights and good intentions. The narrator revealed the scaffolding of Alex's hope, built from small, stubborn rituals. Alex said, Let's keep the ground steady, as she numbered tasks that felt like prayers. Maya said, a list cannot hold back a tide, yet she helped anyway. The apartment carried echoes of missed calls and unread apologies. Alex said, if I can rebuild the day, maybe I can rebuild myself. The narrator watched her place faith in order where trust had failed. Daniel said, we are aligned through an old message that pulsed like a bruise. Alex said, I believed words when they arrived dressed in effort, and the memory flinched. Routine felt like armor stitched from fragile thread. The narrator brought the past closer, not younger, as Alex faced what shaped her gentleness. Alex said, I learned to make peace before anyone asked for war. Maya said, peace without boundaries is surrender, and silence agreed. A saved voicemail from the moral compass played like a lighthouse. Evelyn Hart said, protect your name even when praise is loud, and the wisdom held. Alex said, I thought kindness could revise history, and the line wavered. The narrator showed how she became fluent in apology for harms she did not cause. Daniel said, we need harmony, while collecting credit like trophies. Alex said, I need the truth more than applause. And the room brightened. The anchor took root in hard soil. The narrator mapped the fault line where Alex's loyalty met Daniel's design. Alex said, he never asked for credit, he just took the stage quicker. Maya said, speed can be theft with better shoes. Meeting recaps revealed subtle edits that erased her signature. Alex said, he praised me in private and presented alone in public, and the pattern sharpened. Daniel said perception is reality, and the words wore a crown. The narrator pulled a thread from months of emails to show the fabric slipping. Alex said, I wanted to believe intention mattered, but outcomes kept winning. The anchor held, yet the tide pulled harder toward a necessary fight. The narrator tightened the anchor by naming what Alex needed more than closure. Alex said, I want my name back. And the sentence steadied her breath. Maya said, then you must speak where he is most comfortable. The plan sounded like a bridge made of glass, but it was still a bridge. Alex said, I will bring proof, not pleas, and the resolve rang clear. Daniel said, let's align on credits next quarter in a message that postponed justice. The narrator marked the moment when fear yielded to preparation. Alex said, trust will not return, but I will. And the future opened a fraction. The anchor became ballast for the storm ahead, heavy but faithful. The narrator opened mourning like a wound as Alex Carter cued evidence by color. Alex said, today I stop explaining and start showing. And the words steadied. Maya Chen said, truth is a blade when handled right, and she checked the copies. An internal meeting invite from Daniel Ross blinked like a trap disguised as routine. Alex said he wants status updates, not accountability, and the coffee tasted sour. The printer coughed as if it disliked their plan. Maya said, if they ask for calm, give them clarity, and the tone sharpened. Alex said no more private praise and public theft, and the page numbers aligned. The narrator felt momentum gather like storm pressure behind glass. The room held its breath for the first cut. The narrator followed them into the weekly stand-up where small eyes wear badges. Daniel Ross said, let's align on pipeline risks, and he smiled with careful polish. Alex said, I'll present the model changes and authorship record, and chairs shifted. A hush skated across the table like ice. Maya Chen said, we've prepared references for claims, and eyes narrowed. Daniel said, no need to litigate credit here, and the phrase sought an exit. Alex said, transparency is not litigation, and the projector whirred awake. The narrator caught the way relief visited her posture, then fled. Daniel said, we value collaboration, while his slides loaded her words. The room learned which version of truth could stand. The narrator tracked the pivot when Daniel Ross tried to drown facts in charm. Daniel said, authorship is collective, results matter, and the sentence glowed. Alex said, Results with misattribution rot the culture, and the edges showed. He countered with a compliment that felt like a leash. Maya said, "Please advance to slide 9." And the paper trail marched. The board of dates linked meetings to forwarded files with surgical lines. Daniel said context is complicated, and the room cooled a degree. Alex said it is simple enough to sign names correctly, and silence leveled him. The narrator watched authority search for a graceful exit and fail. The tide turned without applause. The narrator followed Fallout into a hallway where victories feel unreal. Alex said, "He will escalate somewhere I cannot see," and her jaw flexed. Maya Chen said, "Then we widened the light," and she drafted a summary email. A junior analyst hovered like a weather vane at the door. Jonah Lee said, "I saw forward rules on his inbox and guilt trembled." Alex said, "Document what you saw, not what you fear," and steadiness returned. The building hummed with recycled air and rising whispers. Maya said, "We copy leadership on version history," and the keystrokes quickened. Alex said, "Let the record speak before he rewrites it," and the send key flashed. The narrator noted how courage sounds like quiet work. The narrator set the evening like a fuse as Alex prepared for the next strike. Alex said, "He will try to isolate me in private channels." And she locked settings. Daniel Ross said, "Quick sync tonight," and the message arrived without witnesses. Maya Chen said, "No side doors," and forwarded the thread to shared archives. Alex said, "We stay in the open and the policy game teeth." The city darkened while her folders thickened with receipts. Daniel said, "You are overreacting," and the word tried to shrink her frame. Alex said, "Overreacting is how fires get reported," and the inbox steadied. The narrator watched fear become craft and craft become steel. The conflict learned her name. The narrator opened the day with a shadow as Alex Carter read the board's sudden invite. Alex said he forced a leadership review, and her pulse quickened. Maya Chen said a cornered ego calls the meeting. Clouds packed the skyline like a warning. Daniel Ross sent a smiley confirmation that felt like a trapdoor. Alex said, "He will rewrite what we lived," and the kettle hissed in sympathy. Maya said, "We carry truth like iron," and she saved fresh copies. Alex said, "I am ready for his theater," and the morning tasted of metal. The narrator felt the city lean toward revelation. The narrator followed them to the elevator that smelled of steel and static. Alex said, "He thinks surprise will break me," and her jaw set. Maya Chen said, "Surprise only matters if you arrive unprepared," as she tapped the folder. Rain etched patterns down the elevator glass like warning script. Alex said, "Every copy of proof is a nail in his script," and the doors slid open. A reflection of Daniel Ross appeared in the polished metal when he stepped inside. He said, "Morning, teammates," with a practiced grin. The narrator marked how silence became their sharpest weapon. The narrator entered the boardroom where betrayal prefers bright lights. Daniel Ross said, "Let's clarify authorship, tone polished like glass." Alex said, "Evidence first," and placed labeled binders in neat rows. Board chair arched a brow as silence spread. Maya Chen said, "Version histories confirm origin," and the screen glowed with timestamps. Daniel said, "Collaboration blurs lines," and the phrase hunted escape. Alex said, "Integrity does not blur," voice steady as steel. The narrator felt the air tighten, a storm turning inward. Daniel's smile faltered like a flickering bulb. The narrator watched tension crack like lightning as truth cornered the manipulator. Daniel Ross said, "Perhaps we miscommunicated," voice brittle. Alex said, "Miscommunication does not forward private drafts," and laid out email trails. A board member said, "This is explicit." Daniel said, "Processes failed," but his eyes searched the carpet. Maya Chen said, processes obey their owners, and the words struck clean. Alex said, my name is my work, and the room inhaled. The narrator sensed power shift like plates under the ocean. The narrator lingered in the quiet aftermath where triumph tastes like iron. The board chair said credit will be corrected and protocols audited, and pens scratched signatures. Daniel Ross said nothing, his silence louder than apology. Alex said, I only asked for my name, and the words landed like a verdict. Maya Chen said, truth does not beg, and closed the final binder. Rain softened to a tired drizzle as the city exhaled. The narrator noted how justice arrives without applause, but with gravity. Alex said, I will rebuild on what is mine, and the room returned to breath. The narrator found the city holding its breath as Alex Carter opened the evidence packet. Alex said, I will not ask for fairness, only for facts, and the air steadied. Maya Chen said, the town hall is theater, but our lines are true. The company calendar flashed a banner that felt like a drum roll. Alex said, he thrives in rooms that clap on cue, and she zipped the folder. Daniel Ross sent a reminder that dripped with charm and control. The narrator described the hallway as a throat that narrowed toward the stage. Maya said, we step into light and make it honest. Alex said, my voice shakes, but it stands. The elevator doors closed with a verdict in their metal seam. The narrator entered the town hall where applause could be hired by habit. Daniel Ross said, we celebrate progress, and the spotlight gilded his smile. Alex said, progress without credit is erosion, and murmurs clicked like switches. He advanced slides that carried her cadence under his name. Maya Chen said, slide 9, and the projector skimmed to red circles. Daniel said, this is collective craft, but the dates betrayed him. Alex said, this is my authorship, and the room learned a new temperature. The narrator watched certainty waver on familiar faces. Someone said, let her finish, and silence cleared a path. Alex said, this is where trust ended, and the screen held steady. The narrator charted the sting when charm failed to hold the room. Daniel Ross said, I mentored this initiative, and the word mentored bent. Alex said, forwarded drafts are not mentorship, and the proof landed. The timestamps lined up like a convoy of witnesses. Maya Chen said, version control shows origin and edits, and the cursor hovered. Daniel said, we lost process discipline, and the phrase reached for cover. Alex said, you found exactly what you needed, and the tone cut clean. The narrator felt a hush deepen as intention unmasked itself. A manager said, whose name goes first, and the answer glowed obvious. Alex said, mine, and the crowd took a collective breath. The narrator listened, as the room chose gravity over spectacle. Daniel Ross said, let's move forward, and the pleas sounded small. Alex said, forward starts where truth begins, and the weight set. Maya Chen said, we will distribute the repository logs to all, and keystrokes answered. A senior voice said, credit will be corrected and audited. Daniel said, we can discuss offline, and the tactic shrank in daylight. Alex said, no more private corridors, and doors seemed to close. The narrator felt the axis tilt as her name rewrote the slide. The crowd exhaled like weather changing. Alex said, I claim what I made, and the screen agreed. The narrator framed the peak where survival became authorship. Alex said, I do not forgive theft, but I release fear, and the room steadied. Daniel Ross said nothing, and the absence rang. Maya Chen said, your work stands under your name now, and relief cracked a smile. The board liaison said, revisions will propagate by end of day. Alex said, I will publish the method notes with signatures, and the future gained rails. The narrator watched years of self-erasure fold close. Applause came late but clean. Alex said, trust is not repairable here, but truth is documented, and the storm finally thinned to light. The narrator measured the silence that follows a storm as policies reshape the floor. Alex Carter said, "Corrections are live," and the screen confirmed it. Maya Chen said, "Your name leads every file," and a small smile held. The company posted a statement about integrity and audits. Daniel Ross sent a terse acknowledgement that felt like smoke. Alex said, "I wanted justice, not ruins," and the line steadied. Maya said, "Justice always looks like repair from afar." The halls carried a new caution that sounded like respect. Alex said, "I will not be easy to borrow again," and the boundary clicked. The narrator watched a life tighten its stitch. The narrator followed the invoice of consequences as HR drafted its note. Alex said, "I will not speak for his fate," and her gaze held steady. Maya Chen said, "We do not own outcomes, only choices." A meeting confirmed the suspension pending review. Daniel Ross said, "This is political," through a message that sagged. Alex said, "It is documented," and the proof stayed calm. The building's buzz softened as rumors lost their heat. Maya said, "You taught them how to check the lock." Alex said, "I taught myself how to close the door." The narrator marked the moment when fear stopped asking for permission. The narrator set a gentler rhythm as Alex reclaimed the craft under her name. Alex said, "We published the method notes with clear authorship, and the plan breathed." Maya Chen said, "Add reproducibility steps that cannot be rewritten." The repository opened like a stage with good lighting. Alex said, "No more undocumented heroics," and the code comments multiplied. A junior voice asked for guidance without fear. Jonah Lee said, "Show me how to cite properly," and relief warmed the air. Alex said, "We sign our work and protect each other," and the practice formed. The narrator felt trust, rebuilt as structure, not hope. The narrator brought the moral compass into view as wisdom landed without ceremony. Evelyn Hart said, "Ownership is stewardship, not armor," and the truth settled. Alex Carter said, "I mistook kindness for safety," and the clarity did not hurt. Maya Chen said, "Safety is policy plus witness." Alex said, "I learned to ask for signatures before applause." Evelyn said, "And to say no before you bleed." The office clinked with mugs instead of alarms. Alex said, "The work is still mine to love," and warmth returned. The narrator saw a posture that no longer apologized for existing. The narrator closed the day on the street where storms become weather. Alex Carter said, "Trust is smaller now but stronger," and the city lights agreed. Maya Chen said, "It will grow where it is tended." A message arrived from a stranger who thanked her for the record. Alex said, "Let my work teach louder than my fear," and the night opened. She sent a note to her future stating only what mattered. Alex said, "My name is mine," and the echo felt right. The rain quit arguing with the pavement at last. The narrator left her standing in a world that finally spelled her correctly. The narrator welcomed the dawn that smelled of wet earth and quiet triumph. Alex Carter said, "The storm is memory now," and her breath met the chilled air. Maya Chen said, "Memory can guide or haunt, your choice." The skyline blushed as clouds lifted. Alex said, "I will not erase what happened, but I will not live inside it." A street vendor rattled open his cart, the sound gentle as forgiveness. Maya said, "Your work carries your name like a lighthouse." Alex said, "And my trust will grow only where it is earned." The city stretched awake, a living witness to survival. The narrator traced a walk through streets rinsed by night rain. Alex said, "I thought betrayal would define me," and the pavement glittered. Maya Chen said, "It shaped you but did not own you." Storefronts opened with the scent of bread and coffee. Alex said, "I see people again without flinching." A cyclist passed with a bell chime like a small blessing. Maya said, "Trust is a craft, not a gamble." Alex said, "I will build it slow." The narrator felt the city's heartbeat match her calmer stride. Morning grew steady as new faith. The narrator entered a cafe that smelled of roasted hope. Alex said, "This is the first coffee without a knot in my chest." And steam rose in greeting. Maya Chen said, "Your heart remembers light." They sat near a window where sunbeams traced the tabletop. Alex said, "I will write the story as it lived, not as he wanted." Maya said, "Truth is art when told without fear." The barista offered a quiet nod that felt like recognition. Alex said, "I survived theft and found voice." The narrator tasted sweetness in the silence between words. The narrator watched ink become closure as Alex signed a fresh notebook. Alex said, "I give these pages to the future, not the past." Maya Chen said, "May they carry courage forward." The paper drank each stroke like it knew the weight of honesty. Outside, branches swayed in a gentle breeze that smelled of renewal. Alex said, "My name is enough. My work is mine." A distant church bell rang noon like a blessing. Maya said, "What you built will outlive the betrayal." The narrator marked the shift from survivor to author. The narrator offered a final frame where quiet power lived. Alex said, "Trust will never be blind again, and I am free of his shadow." Maya Chen said, "Freedom is the story you chose to keep." The evening sky bled into violet as city lights flickered awake. Alex stood at the window, silhouette steady against twilight. A distant siren softened into the hum of life moving on. Alex said, "The betrayal ended my illusions, not my hope." The narrator left her there, a name unbroken, a soul returned to its own care.